Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. This is my number 2 podcast of my Dear Diary, or whatever I called it. Okay. Today's video, I wanted to talk about. I'm not going to do the full talking about my relationship video, but I do want to talk about um, finding love and all the things that led me up to that. And um, you know, one of the biggest things that because because I'm a hypnotherapist, and I have a program that is specifically around this, called the changing your dating patterns thing. Now I'm gonna go back, and I talk about this in other videos, but about when I went no contact like 10 years ago with my ex, and I learned about narcissism and all that stuff, and I knew that going no contact was my only option. After doing that and healing and learning about my codependency, I learned about, like, one of the biggest things that was really important to me was learning that um my type, that I was like attracted to, like the bad boy, bad girl types or whatever. What my last ex was female, and so learning that was like a huge thing for me, because I was like, am I always going to be destined to like these people? Because the other people like are just boring, and I just like, I can't, like, I meet nice people and I'm just like, I'm like, this is just who I'm attracted to. But learning that this was just because of like my pattern and stuff like that was like a huge game changer, because then I went to work on healing myself, and I was seeing a therapist, and I got energy healing. I went to Codependence Anonymous for like a full year, meetings. I did webinars, read books, I did everything. And then I started affirmation work, and then I learned about hypnotherapy, which was like a game changer. So I healed my trauma, released things, and then I really worked on changing my programming. And all of that was like great. And for years, I never dated because I needed that time to change, because I had two long-term relationships with these very similar types of people. And I had to recognize my involvement. The first thing I needed to look at was, what was my contribution to that, because we can't just blame these people. Not that I deserved any of the abuse I received, but what was my part in this? Because there was my part in this, and me allowing these types of people, me being drawn to these types of people. And so after I was in a hiatus for dating, and I would not date for years. Then I started dating after like 5 or 6 years. I started to kind of dip my toes in there, and it was not good. So I would come back, and then eventually, like, I would kind of go on some dates online and stuff, and they weren't working, and it was just, am I having a bad dream? Halo, he's sleeping. Sorry. You okay, buddy? Aw, what happened? I know. Just had a bad dream. Okay, so I basically went to work and changed my programming and was trying dating and stuff like that. But then, over a year ago, I learned that I was autistic. And oh, let me start before that. So while I was doing that, I learned about me being an avoidant, that my attachment style was avoidant. And it was funny because the people who were good, I would like be very avoidant and sabotage it and run from those things. Meanwhile, I would get like really um, taken by these abusive type of people, which obviously I learned later was very common with like autistic people, but also it was my pattern because of like my dad, and just like all that pattern would just repeat itself. So when I learned I was autistic, um, I felt like really bad after that, because I was like, I've been working so hard on changing my patterns and who I am, and to date differently and stuff like that. And then I realized, like, I can't heal those patterns of who I am, like, as like the things that I need and require as an autistic person in a relationship. And so I remember writing an article, and it's published on Elephant Journal, by the way. I submitted it, and it was about New Year's kiss and the grief that comes with that. So I started the year last year in this absolute surrender. And I believe that this is, obviously doing all that work was important because it led me, I'll explain later. But when I wrote that letter, I was in this place of surrender, that I surrendered to the fact that there was a possibility that I may never find that right person for me. And I sat with that grief. Sitting with your grief and your pain and allowing yourself to feel that pain is probably the most wonderful thing that you can do to help you with your, obviously your healing, but your transformation and your manifesting and thing. Because when you do that, it means that you relinquish control and say, I don't have any control over any of this. I accept that there's a chance that may not happen. And you let yourself feel that pain and the heartbreak and that. And I did. I let myself feel all of that. And I just accepted and surrendered into that, and I started the new year, and I was just like, I gave some attempts at dating, and then it was, very, very wrong. And just before I was ready to give up and say, like, no, I was actually giving up and saying, like, screw this, I met my ex right after. I keep calling my ex, met my boyfriend right after that. And so, like, just in the springtime, um and he's wonderful. He's absolutely wonderful. But I'm happy that I met him now, because if I met him in the past, I wouldn't have dated someone like him. Because, and I say it all the time, because I would have been in my old programming and I would have rejected someone like him, because you, your type is based on your base programming. And I was still on that old programming before, and I didn't heal my wounds, and I wasn't ready to accept what I deserved, like that I deserved good love, and that I, I stopped tolerating the things that were not good enough for me. And so I'm happy that I met him now, because if I met him before, I never would have dated someone like him. And I did all of the work, and doing all of that work is what allowed me to let someone like that in. And then being in a place of surrender let me relinquish that control, and then energetically align with that in my life. And so there's like a series of things that happened to get me to that place. So doing the work is important, because you want to, if you're someone who has a cycle of like constantly dating the same types of people, especially if they're toxic or whatever, then doing the work is important, because you need to change your programming so you don't like attract those people, and you're not drawn to them, and you won't like tolerate them when they are there, and that when the good people come, you're not going to reject them or sabotage it or any of that stuff. You want to recognize it and allow them to come in, and then surrendering to the fact that we don't have any control over this, and that what's meant to be will be, and just accepting that and sitting with the pain and heartbreak of that, and all of that like will lead you to what is for you, because what's for you is for you. So that's basically how I got to where I was. I'm not going to share the story of like my boyfriend right now. That'll be for another podcast. But that is how I got to the place where I am and found love. And if you want to hear more about that, let me know. And that's it. I hope you guys find that too, because everyone deserves a beautiful, wonderful love. My chair is sliding down, so I'm going to end this video. Thank you for being here. Take care, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.